Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 13 2017 NFL predictions. Well, this week for the Fanatic, it was a mixed bag of a week in terms of my results against the spread after starting out last week on a 7-2 start. I dropped my final 7 games to fall to 7-9, which is absolutely horrible. It's just frustrating to me. But again, I had the Saints pulling off an upset on the road. It was a close game, but the Rams were able to win the game 26-20, especially off the fact of the Saints did not have Marshawn Lattimore and Ken Crawley, their top 2 corners, and also didn't have Alex Okafor either, their leading sacker. But still, kudos to the Rams, big time win. And they had their first non-losing season since 2006. And then I had, the Jags get upset by the Cardinals when Doug Marrone stupidly, after getting 2 yards on first down, had 2 straight incompletions which stopped the clock. And Phil Dawson and Gabbard was able to hit 2 passes for 23 yards. And Phil Dawson hits a career high 57-yard field goal. Kudos to him. That's really good for a 19-year veteran, Phil Dawson. But then you had that loss. You had the you had the Packers game, which was a lot closer. The Ravens game was a lot closer. And all these games, they were just kind of like, I had the opportunity right there, or the games went a lot closer, and the results didn't pan out for me. So I'm hoping to, against the spread, do a much better job. And straight up, last week I had another really good week. I went 13-3. So now overall for the year, I am 87, 83, and 5 against the spread, which equals about 51%. And now overall, straight up for the year, I am 118 and 58, which equals 67% straight up. That's a really good high for me. And I'm really going to shoot for the last 4 weeks to possibly get up to 68, possibly 70% straight up. That would be awesome, and I'm really hoping I can do that. Alright, so, time for my picks and thoughts on each game. So, tomorrow, when the 5-6 Washington Redskins go to the 5-6 Dallas Cowboys, the Washington Redskins are 1-point favorites in this game. I like Washington here -1, and Washington straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings go to the 7-4 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Minnesota here +3, and Minnesota straight up. Then the next game, in a battle of 6-5 teams, when the Detroit Lions go to the Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Detroit here +3, and Detroit straight up. And then the next game, when the 9-2 New England Patriots go to the 6-5 Buffalo Bills, the New England Patriots are 8.5-point favorites in this game. I like New England here -8.5, and New England straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-10 San Francisco 49ers go to the 3-8 Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are 4-point favorites in this game. I like I'm going to take San Francisco here +4, but I'll take the Bears straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 5-6 Green Bay Packers. This is a pick'em game, and I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers at home in a pick them to win this game. So there's that. And then the next game, when the 3-8 Indianapolis Colts go to the 7-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 9.5-point favorites in this game. I like Indianapolis here +9.5, but I'll take the Jacksonville Jaguars straight up. Then the next game, the Broncos at the Dolphins. This is another pick'em game. I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins here against the spread, and the Miami Dolphins straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-5 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 4-7 New York Jets. The Kansas City Chiefs are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Jets here +3, but I'll take the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-7 Houston Texans go to the 7-4 Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Houston here +7, but I'll take the Tennessee Titans straight up. Then the next game, when the 0-11 Cleveland Browns go to the 5-6 Los Angeles Chargers. The LA Chargers are 13.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Chargers here, -13.5, and the Chargers straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-3 Los Angeles Rams go to the 5-6 Arizona Cardinals, the LA Rams are 7-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here -7, and the LA Rams straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-9 New York Giants go to the 5-6 Oakland Raiders, the Oakland Raiders are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Oakland here -7, and Oakland straight up. And then the next game, when the 8-3 Carolina Panthers go to the 8-3 New Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Saints are 4-point favorites in this game. I like New Orleans here -4, and New Orleans straight up. And then the Sunday night game, when the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles go to the 7-4 Seattle Seahawks, the Philadelphia Eagles are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Philadelphia here -5.5, and Philadelphia straight up. Then finally on Monday night, when the 9-2 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 5-6 Cincinnati Bengals, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh here -5.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. Washington over Dallas. I look at this Redskins-Cowboys game, and the biggest reason why I'm taking Washington is I've seen Dallas play absolutely awful. Dak Prescott over the last 3 games hasn't even been able to put up more double-digit points, and it was 16 and 20. They put up 23 points in their last 3 games as an offense. So, and again, I was a big Dak Prescott fan. I thought Dak Prescott was was going to have a bigger effect on the team and play better to lead the Cowboys to, even if they didn't win the games, to at least be competitive. But I was dead wrong about that. And this is definitely the Zeke bus. Or we get on the Zeke train, because when that goes away, Dak Prescott looks below average, and it actually makes the Cowboy fans miss Tony Romo. Because Tony Romo with Alfred Morris and Rod Smith would play a lot better than Dak Prescott's been playing. Also, they haven't had Sean Lee in the last few games, and every second half he hasn't been in those games, they've been outscored by, about 100-something to 20. So they've been thoroughly outscored on defense. That's kind of amazing that 2 guys, one on each side of the ball, can be that valuable to a team that if they're not there, they all fall apart. But that's the reason why I'm taking Washington. Like, Washington, as a 5-6 team, they are the NFC version of the Chargers. They didn't, play all that well against the Giants. But Samaje Perine did have 100 yards, and when Kirk Cousins needed a big play, Crowder had 7 receptions for 104 yards in TD. He was able to make enough big plays, and Kendall Fuller, who has 4 picks this year, came up with a big interception that got him the game. And I've seen the Redskins play New Orleans very tough. I've seen them play KC really tough. They beat Seattle in Seattle, even with all these injuries that they've had to go through. And I just think, again, they'll be able to pull out another kind of win like this because the Redskins defense will do a good enough job against the Cowboys offense that they'll stuff the run, and I don't think Des Bryant will get off on Norman, and I think the other safeties with the DJ Swearingers, the Monte Nicholsons, the Fullers, the D'Angelo Halls, all those guys will play pretty well enough to get the Redskins another gritty, tough-out win and give Kirk Cousins only his 2nd win against the Cowboys in his entire career. This game is crucial for both teams, kind of in the sense of, respect. I don't think both these teams are going to be a playoff team at this point, but I think the Washington Redskins have shown over the year that even through all the injuries, they've been a more consistent team. They've been able to run the ball better, and Kirk Cousins right now, with the weapons he's had around him, even without Terrell Pryor, he'll be able to win this game against this very suspect and below-average Cowboys defense without Sean Lee. So that's all, like Washington here -1 and Washington straight up. Next game, Vikings over Atlanta. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings here because I trust this Vikings team. This Vikings team has been solid, consistent. They've won 7 straight games for the first time since 7 or 8 straight games since 2009. They have a top 5 defense, a top 10 offense. Case Keenum has put together 70% completion over the last few games. They're able to run the ball effectively. Adam Thielen's 2nd in the NFL in receiving yards, only behind Antonio Brown. Kyle Rudolph is playing a solid tight end position. And they're just a really fundamentally sound team. And I look at the Atlanta Falcons, and I say that, look, they have found their offensive rhythm. Matt Ryan has put up about a 110 quarterback rating. He has about, I would say, one, and then you have the 3 touchdowns, and the other few touchdowns. He's put up, like, MVP-type numbers over the last 3 games. I think 7 TDs and only, 1 pick over the last, 3 or 4 weeks. So he's playing really good football, and that offense is rolling, even without Devontae Freeman, who is coming back to practice today, which is huge for the Falcons. And I know they're at home. But I just think, again, this Vikings team, they are going to travel very well. And I think Case Keenum can play just like Alex Smith did last year. That's the kind of game I see happening this week. It's very Chiefs-Falcons-like. Where the Chiefs, again, they were a solid offense last year. With Alex Smith, Kendrick West, Hill, Kelsey, Macklin, all those guys. They were a solid offense with a very good defense. And remember how that game ended last year? Matt Ryan threw a pick 2-point conversion that got them the win. I'm not saying that that's exactly going to happen this time around, but I could see kind of a big defensive fumble or turnover, either letting the Vikings kick a game-winning field goal or stop a game-tying or game-winning drive. That's how I see this game going. And I just think for Atlanta, they've been very fortunate with kind of the breaks they've gotten. With the fact that, again, they put Adrian Claiborne had a career day against Chaz Green against the Cowboys. And then the next week, if Pete Carroll kicks a field goal at that point and make it 20-24, or he doesn't call the one challenge, they could have lost to Seattle. Again, the Falcons play decent football. So, I'm still going to give them the credit for playing those good games and getting back on track at this point to have 3 straight wins after a 4-4 middle-of-the-road type performance. But I'm taking the Vikings here because I trust this whole roundedness of this team to be able to do what Kansas City kind of did last year in terms of the way they'll play. And just the aspect of where until Case Keenum has a rough game, which I don't really see happening against this Atlanta defense, who, if it wasn't for, Brent Grimes, missing a turnover, I think, the Bucs could have tied the game. And I'm being totally serious about that. But I'm going to take the Vikings here because they have the more solid defense, better running game, and I'm going to trust the whole team over a motivated, hot team in the Falcons right now that's predominantly being offensive-driven. And kudos to Mohamed Sanu for throwing his first touchdown as Atlanta Falcon. And at that moment, he and Matt Ryan had the same amount of touchdowns thrown to Julio Jones. So that's all I like Minnesota here, +3, and Minnesota straight up. The next game, the Lions over the Ravens. This is one of those games where I'm going to trust Matt Stafford in this offense. And I know what you're saying. You could say, well, you trusted Brent Hundley and Mike McCarthy a couple weeks ago against this Ravens team. I did, and I was dead wrong about that. Or, unfortunately, he played his great game this past Sunday when they played Pittsburgh, and he had 3 touchdowns and about 300 yards. Who knew Brent Hundley could do that? But I'm taking the Lions here, and I know the Lions haven't had a 100-yard rusher in about 63 games, longest streak in the NFL. We have the number 2 overall defense with 17 points per game, and we've caused the most turnovers. But the problem for me is, and this is coming from a Ravens fan, and all the Ravens fans can get angry at me for bashing Flacco, it is an absolute robbery, ladies and gentlemen, that Joe Flacco has the highest salary cap in the NFL and is stealing wins and stealing money from the NFL for how awful and pathetic, inept his performance has been this entire year. On Monday night, people, he threw for 143 yards. He averaged under 4 yards an attempt. And they won the game. Okay? So yes, I love our defense. Our defense is one of the best in the NFL. And it's going to keep us in games. And we have the most clutchest kicker in the NFL in Justin Tucker. But I'm taking the Lions because even with, the injuries of the offensive line, they had some on Thanksgiving. Even with Abdullah and Riddick not being able to run the ball, and even with the Lions not having a true number 1 wide receiver, they just are a more competent offense. Stafford's being able to move the ball more effectively. Stafford has a decent secondary behind him. They have a decent, front 7, especially with, Ziggy Ansah there. Gerard Davis has played really well. Tahir Whitehead. I just think this Lions team is a more solid team. And I just trust that offensive build, especially with Matt Stafford at quarterback, to be able to win this game. Do I think it could be close? Absolutely. Because think about it, the Lions have a lot more pressure on them. The Ravens can seriously eat this loss because if the Bills lose to New England, which is most likely to happen, then we're still going to be in that 6th spot. But for Ravens fans, we need this win because next week we're going to Pittsburgh. And I have very little faith in the Ravens that we can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Remember last year, it was could we compete with them? Sure. Any division game, you could throw the record out the window. But remember, it was the Immaculate Reception last year that cost, that lost that time. And with Pittsburgh, feeling motivated New England, they would sure love to knock out, their division rival on the way to New England to kind of send a message to New England that we are ready to play you in 3 weeks. But I'm going to take the Lions here because I trust the coach. The coach knows our staff, and they know what Harbaugh likes to do. And I just think the Lions offense will be able to produce enough, and with this with the Lions defense, they'll be able to cause 1 or 2 turnovers, which will basically be the end of the game. It should be an interesting game because I think these two teams are more similar than not, but I'm going to take the better offense, the experienced staff that knows the Ravens personnel, and that will drive the Lions to a victory to get them to 7-5. So that's why I like Detroit +3 and Detroit straight up. Next game, Patriots over Bills. I do want to give the Buffalo Bills credit. Their defense did a fantastic job against the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Alex Smith threw for about 198 yards, he needed an interception. They only allowed Kareem Hunt to run for 17 yards, which was a season low for him. And just in the biggest moment, Alex Smith threw a horrendous interception to Tre'Davious White that cost Buffalo the game. That cost Kansas City the game. So kudos to the Bills, and thank God Tyrod Taylor won Sean McDermott a game because he basically bailed him out, and they're still in the playoff race wholeheartedly. But I'm going to take New England here. Brady's only lost, I think, 2 times in Buffalo his whole career. This is a consistent beatdown. Taylor's never beaten Brady at all. And I just think, again, even with the Patriots, like, Sunday's game against the Dolphins wasn't one of the smoothest games he's ever had, but they still were able to win by 18 points. He still broke the record for most passing yards and passing touchdowns by a 40-year-old quarterback. He only has, 25 or 26 TDs, 3 interceptions. Definitely an MVP candidate. Brandon Cooks is playing absolutely phenomenal. And I don't think it matters that they don't have Hightower. They lost Bennett and Nate Ebner for the year with injuries. They're still going to be a good football team, and they just should be able to roll through the Bills like they do the rest of their division every single year. And fun fact, Pats fans, starting with the game with Miami, in their last 6 games, 5 of them are against the division. So how fun is that? Oh, what a joy for the Pats. So that's why I like New England here -8.5 and New England straight up. Next game, the Bears over the Niners. This is one of those hedge games. Like, the Chicago Bears looked god-awful against Philadelphia, and I overestimated the Bears' defense. I thought that they would do a good enough job. I thought they would get pressure on Wentz. I thought they could contain the running game, and I thought Trubisky could make a play or two to keep the game close. Boy, was I wrong about that, because Jordan Howard ran for career-low 6 yards. They outgained the Eagles on the ground, I think, by over 120 yards, and Trubisky had another 2-interception game. But this Bears team, the reason why I'm taking the Bears is I just don't know how Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do against this defense. I know Jimmy Garoppolo is the better quarterback, and what a great way for him to start his Niner career. Then in the final 2 plays of the offense for the Niners, he threw a touchdown on the Seahawks defense. However, this is still Jimmy Garoppolo. And, here's the point. I don't think Jimmy should be cursed critically for what he's gone through, what he's going to go through over the final 5 games. He doesn't need to win. But I just think with the talent they have around him, no Garcon, Carlos Hyde's going to get stuffed by the Bears defense. I just think the Bears are going to be able to, grind out a win and give Garoppolo chaotic pocket, then get the Bears a victory with a big turnover or a clutch field goal at the end of the game that gets the Bears this victory. Would I be surprised if San Francisco won this game? Not at all, because I think Jimmy Garoppolo has earned this opportunity, and definitely, by the couple-play sample, he can outplay Mitchell Trubisky. I just think with the defensive matchup, I think the Bears have a much easier defensive matchup than the Niners do, and I'm going to trust that Bears defense and running game to keep Jimmy Garoppolo off the field and grind out a victory over a lowly Niner team, but just kind of with how the Bears are, I think they'll grind it out with running game, a couple big-time throws, and Trubisky's athleticism that gets him over the hump against the game Garoppolo, who's really trying to see how he fits in this Niner system with Kyle Shanahan. So that's all I like San Francisco here, +4, and San Francisco straight up. Next game, Packers over Bucks. I'm just going to hope that Brent Hundley and the Packers, they can get a couple players back. They didn't have Clay Matthews. They didn't have one of their tackles on Sunday, and Demarius Randall went out. I'm just hoping Brent Hundley can play a decent enough game. Maybe not the way he played against Pittsburgh, not that good, but he can play decently enough against the Tampa defense, which has been, very pedestrian, very bad. They won't have Doug Martin running the football for them. And I just hope with the Packers, with how they could get some pressure, they have playmakers in Ahmad Brooks, Blake Martinez, Nick Perry, Morgan Burnett, John Ryan. Those guys can make enough plays on the Tampa offense in a one-dimensional game that can get the Packers this victory. I thought Fitzpatrick was going to start, but I believe Jameis Winston is going to be able to come back from his injury. But I'm going to take the Packers here just because I'm going to put faith in Brent Hundley one more time. And I'm probably do it next week too because they play the Browns. But, okay, this is my last time where I'm just genuinely going to put hope in Brent Hundley and his Packers offense. After what I saw against Pittsburgh, and yes, I knew that Joe Hayden was out, and, Artie Burns and them got busted coverages, so it really wasn't that much skill. It was just, bad play hauling by Keith Butler and the Steelers. But just after what I saw out of him, I'm just going to believe in him at home, that against a Tampa team that's just kind of meddling along to get to the end of the year, I think the Packers pull off this victory. I think Hundley gains some confidence. His receivers gain some confidence. He has a good arsenal of weapons around him. And I think Jonathan Williams, who was pretty good, can have another decent game against the Bucs defense, and the Packers will find a way to win this game. But I'd be surprised if Tampa Bay won this game, not at all, and I might regret taking the Packers because of Jameis Winston being back there. But it'll be a one-dimensional Tampa Bay team. I just think I'm going to trust Hundley enough to play another solid game to get the Green Bay Packers a big win to get them to 6-6, and then with 3 games to go, after they beat Cleveland next week, let's see if Rodgers can carry them out for the rest of the way. I don't know, but we'll see. So that's all I like. Green Bay against the spread, and a pick 'em, and Green Bay straight up. Next game, Jacksonville over Indy. This is one of those games where if Jacksonville, the last time they played, they shut them out 27-0. That was Jacksonville's first ever road shutout in team franchise history. And the last time that the Colts played in London for the Jags, in their home game, they got they won there. And then last year they got beat down 51-17. I do not think it's going to be that bad because right now the Jags are kind of frazzled after losing a game to Blaine Gabbert, their former top 15 overall pick in Blaine Gabbert. And I think Jacoby Brissett, from what you saw out of the Colts, he's played pretty well. I think Frank Gore, he's close, or he's either passed or close, and someone could tell me in the comment section. Jerome Bettis for 6 all-time in rushing yards, so kudos to Frank Gore. But I'm just going to take the Jags because I feel like this is a game where Jacoby Brissett, if that defense can play like it has been, it's been the best offense for the Jags all year, and I'm being dead serious about it. I think the Jags just, handle their home business. They're playing a Colts team that's undermanned, underperforming. They don't really have any secondary. Blake Bortles isn't going to have to worry about throwing that offense. I think Leonard Fournette will have a much better game on the ground that can bring balance to the Jags' offense, and they can win the game. And the last time they played, Blake Bortles had over 300 yards and a couple TDs, so that was one of his better career games. So I think at home he could put up the similar kind of numbers, and the Jags can have another easy rolling route victory. And also, by the way, it is an odd week, so they can get another victory. That odd even thing, that's still working in play here, that every odd week the Jags play really well, or they win the game, and every even week they either struggle to win, or they just absolutely look bad, and they lose. Or all three. But that is the weirdest thing that's still going on. But I'm taking the Colts here plus 9.5 because I feel like the Jags, this game is going to be a lot closer, and the Colts are going to be motivated from being shut out to not be shut out again and be a lot more competitive. So that's why I like Indianapolis plus 9.5, but Jacksonville straight up. Next game, Dolphins over Broncos. God, this is awful. This is so awful. I would love if we could just give these two teams half an L. Like, if we could give for the letter L. Yeah, let me see. Is that... Did I put in camera? There we go. The letter L right there. If we could give the bottom part of the L to the Dolphins and the top part of the L to the Broncos, I would appreciate that because this game is going to be absolutely dreadful to watch. But the only reason why I'm taking the Miami Dolphins is Jay Cutler got cleared from concussion protocol, and he will start. And Jay Cutler will want revenge on his former team, the Broncos, and he'll want to, try to see. And so will Adam Gase for not giving him the opportunity to get that coaching job there. I think also with just the fact that, again, Paxton Lynch is out for 2 to 3 weeks. Akeem Talib is suspended. I just think the Dolphins with Cutler and being at home and Kenyon Drake can do enough to win this football game. I think that's enough. Would I be surprised if Denver won this game? No. But I just can't with Trevor Siemian. I can't with these Denver quarterbacks. They're all awful. They need to get rid of all 3 of those guys. Bring in an Eli Manning. Bring in an Alex Smith. Bring in a veteran quarterback. And let Chad Kelly compete with that veteran quarterback or learn under him. And then if whatever happens, let Chad Kelly see if he can be the guy. But with that not happening right now, I got to go with the Dolphins. They're home. They have a better quarterback than Siemian. And they have a decent defense, which is going to cause a lot of problem to the Denver offense. Any defense right now is causing problems to the Denver offense. But the Miami Dolphins defense are not front 4. They'll get enough pressure on Siemian. They'll get him to make enough mistakes to win this game. So that's like Miami in a pick-em against the spread. Miami straight up. Next game, Chiefs at Jets. This is another one of those games like with the Bears and the Niners. I just kind of hedged my bet because I just kind of knew this was kind of how competitive this game was. I'm taking the Chiefs for one important stat. The team with the worst scoring differential in the fourth quarter is the New York Jets. And that has been the biggest problem for the Jets all year, and that is the biggest problem for the Chiefs right now in their games, in their 5 or 6 game losing streak. And, that's the problem. It's not like the Chiefs are getting blown out in any of these games. No, they've had either opportunities to win or tie these games every single week. And every time some fluky, unfortunate coaching, constricted play calling, it just always bites them in the butt in the rear end, and it ends up costing them the game. So I almost feel like as much as the Chiefs will want to try to give this game to the Jets, and the Jets are going to be competitive because the Jets, even at 4-7, are one of the better teams in the NFL, even in the AFC, if you really want to be honest about it, with what they've had to go through in their expectation. But just with that being said, I feel like if the Chiefs try to give up this game, the Jets will do something to give it right back, and I think the Jets will make one more mistake, make one more flaw, that will give the Chiefs the victory in a kooky, in a weird, hopefully confidence-building way that is so uniquely Jet-like. Shout out to Logan Chip. Sorry about that, buddy, but it's the truth. And the best example of that, in the game against Carolina on Sunday, they were at the 1-yard line. They went first and goal at the 1. They threw 3 straight passing plays with Bilal Powell and Forte as their running backs. That just shows you how inept and stupid the Jets coaching staff was in that situation. They didn't even try to run the football in that spot. Yeah, so that's why I'm taking the Chiefs over the Jets again. The worst fourth quarter differential scoring in the NFL, the Jets. So I feel like even if the Chiefs want to give this game, which they've been doing for the last 6 weeks, has been giving games to teams, the Jets will just say, hey, you know what, we're the Jets. You're a Chief team that has some talent. We'll give it to you, and we'll let you kind of keep your division lead. So that's why I like the Jets here +3, but the Chiefs straight up. Next game, Titans over Texans. This is one of those games where the Titans are going to have revenge on their mind. And with the Texans, they're just inept offensively. Like DeAndre Hopkins, him and Savage have a good connection. He's been putting up phenomenal yards. But Tom Savage also turns the ball over way too much. He's had the most fumbles in the NFL at quarterback, and he's only played half the year. motivation from earlier this year, that's kind of an easy way to kind of point that in favor of the Titans. But I'm going to take the Texans plus 7 because after what I saw at Indy, I think Tom Savage and the Texans can kind of play a similar type game to keep this game close enough for the Texans to cover the spread. So that's why I like Houston here plus 7 and Houston straight up. Houston plus 7 and Tennessee straight up. Next game, the Chargers are over Cleveland. The LA Chargers right now, in my opinion, are the third best team in the AFC behind the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. They have a sensational offense led by Phillip Rivers, Melvin Gordon. They have a decent offensive line. You have Keenan Allen playing like a number 1 wide receiver finally for the first time since his rookie year. You have Hunter Henry. You have Antonio Gates. You have Tyrell Williams who can make decent plays. You have Austin Eckler, who's their Danny Woodhead out of the backfield. You have Mike Williams, who maybe can make a play or two, even though I think he's dealing with something right now, but he can make a play. And you have the best pass rushing duo in the NFL with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram coming on both sides. That is an absolute killer connection. They've been in every single game this year, and the Chargers are really not a 5-6 team. This is a 7-3, 8-2. I'm sorry, 5-6. They are an 8-3, 7-4, possibly a 9-2 football team of all the games they've been in and all the games they should have tied, won, or both. Tied or won. And right now, I'm not going to bet against them taking on the lowless Cleveland Browns, who are only the second team in NFL history to have consecutive 0-11 starts to their years. And the Chargers will be extra motivated because the only team Hugh Jackson will be able to beat as the Cleveland Browns head coach is the Los Angeles Chargers, or the former San Diego, now Los Angeles Chargers. They're going to want revenge for that, and right now, I have no doubt in my mind that the Chargers are going to whip the Browns from pillar to post to get to 500. And to tell you the truth right now, I think the Chargers will win the AFC West. They are playing that well right now, and I think that they, will be able, with their schedule remaining, they'll be able to carry enough momentum to get a 9 to 10 win season. Chiefs are going to fall back. They still have to play them one more time. That could be the difference to get them into the AFC West division and into the playoffs. So that's why I like the LA Chargers minus 13.5 and the LA Chargers straight up. Next game, the Rams over the Cardinals. I'm taking the Rams here because they, again, have been playing sensational football. Jared Goff had another really good 2 TD, 1 interception day. They're going to be able to run the ball effectively. The defense played pretty solid. And even with Robert Woods, they had Josh Reynolds step up and catch a touchdown and play decent for them in that 3 spot. And I just think, again, the Cardinals got lucky. Like, the Cardinals are not a good football team. And the last time they played them in London, they shut them out 32-0. I don't think the Cardinals will get shut out at home, especially by the Rams. But the Rams should be able to, shut down this Cardinal offense. They're playing Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert had his big moment in the desert sun, if you will, by throwing that big bomb to John Brown and leading that game-winning drive. But there's a huge difference between Blaine Gabbert, there's a huge difference between Blake Bortles and Jared Goff. And Jared Goff has a lot more talent around him. And I think, again, Blaine Gabbert, if he could lose to Tom Savage with that offense, he definitely can lose to this Rams team, leading the greatest show on turf in the LA Rams offense. So that's why I think the LA Rams here minus 7 and the LA Rams straight up. Next game, Oakland over the Giants. Geno Smith starting. I was going to take the Giants against the spread because I thought, the Giants have some confidence. They played pretty well. Oakland's kind of a weird team. Their defense isn't that good. But they brought in Geno Smith. And, I know a lot of people have talked about Eli. And then here's the thing. Eli is a quarterback to me that he hasn't been great very consistently. Maybe not even great at all. But he's won the Giants 2 Super Bowls. He has started 210 consecutive games. He's made the Pro Bowl 4 times. He's completed 62% of his passes, thrown for 2,400 yards, has 14 TDs to 7 interceptions. What are the Giants going to gain out of the last 5 games? What? Nothing. This man has been a consummate professional. He's had the Derek Jeter type professionalism that New York respects and admires from their athletes. And to let him go like this, I think it's an absolute like Philadelphia minus 5.5 and Philadelphia straight up. And then finally, the Steelers over the Bengals. I'll trust Pittsburgh. Tomlin's had a phenomenal record against the Bengals over the years, and the Bengals, their